Hi folks, welcome to another Witty Wicklow Writers Workshop. So we decided to return after the first session, and the reason is we were satisfied, you guys were happy, so why not? If everyone enjoyed, I think there's no reason to avoid the sequence. So we decided to return, the three of us, and that's the intent. We expect to be here on a regular basis. Now, as long as everyone has a good time, that's all we need to keep going for the future, and there'll be more to come. So same setup as last time. We're going to speak about writing, what's happening behind the scenes. Chat box is open, so we want to make sure this thing is interactive. Of course, we have some idea in terms of topics, but if you guys have some ideas, have some other ideas, and want to add some other themes to the discussion, great. We want to make sure that this is as dynamic as possible. And if you know someone who is into the topic of writing or arts as such, share. We'll be here for the next 1 hour or 1.5. If you are satisfied with the way we approach this topic and a couple of others, please, there is a button below, thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, that button is a great way to help us move in the YouTube sphere. So I want to just greet my two dear guests, Jeroen and Maria. I know Jeroen is very, very excited to go to Rome. Yeah, he thought it was tomorrow, but it's Thursday. Typical appetite when you cannot wait just to get on the airplane. And you are studying Italian, so would you be able to interact with those locals?
I'm fairly hopeful of it. I mightn't be able to keep up to speed with them, but I would definitely, I give it my best. And you know what? Sometimes it's just about doing that. You just try. You know, I always find if you try and speak in the person's language, they appreciate it. And even if you make a mistake or whatever, they'll be very much appreciative of the fact that you're trying to speak their language. So yeah, I'll definitely give it my best shot, you know.
Yeah. You'll be there for what, a couple of nights or?
Yeah, 4 days. So it's not huge, but it'll be enough to see it. It's not apparently a big city or anything like that. And, you know, we've kind of got plans to see all the main sites and stuff. But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to it. I believe it or not, I've been to Italy 16 times. I've never been to Rome and I've never been to Venice.
That's insane.
So I've seen lots of Italy, but not Rome and not Venice.
Yeah, I mean, I never heard of someone who visited Italy this often and never put their feet in Rome. That's some achievement. It's
an achievement, yeah.
I would say, because you are very much into Italy, this won't be your last time in Rome. You'll go back, I'm sure.
I have that feeling, yeah, and because obviously it's history, it's, you know, there's all of the things that I'm interested in. I get the feeling that I'm going to be there and I'm probably going to miss quite a few things, and then I'll be wanting to go back to catch those things. So, yeah, I'm very much looking forward to it now. It's gonna be cool, and yeah, it's a lovely time of the year as well. Like, it's nice weather, you know.
Yeah,
you can't go wrong. Like.
Not at all. Maria, I'm very happy to see you again. Do you have any trip in the near future?
Yeah, happy to see you too, Vitor, and thank you for inviting me again. I'm actually going to Greece this week, as Easter is soon, so I'll be spending it with my family. And yeah, I think I'm as excited as you to go to Rome. Just, you know, family, good food, very good weather. Not at the moment because it snowed somewhere apparently, which I did not expect, but soon, hopefully.
Wow.
What part of Greece are you going to?
I'm from the south. It's a city called Patras, and it's 2 hours away from Athens. It's by the sea, so hoping that the lovely weather will just be in there in time for Easter.
You made me jealous because I'm going nowhere.
Oh, I think you're invited everywhere if you want to drop by. We can talk to my family about writing. I'm sure they'll be interested. Those of them who are not watching this already.
I'm actually I cannot complain too much. I'm actually traveling at the end of the month, so 3 weeks from now. I'm traveling to São Tomé and Príncipe in Africa.
Oh wow!
Wow.
Oh, cool. That's
so
cool.
my girlfriend. Yeah, it's my girlfriend's birthday. It's a big one. I'm not going to reveal her age here, on camera. I'm going to be, but it's a big number. You know what I mean? It's and yeah. So it was totally up to her to pick a destination. People might think it was my choice because it's a Portuguese colony, but it was not. Absolutely not. It was her idea, and of course, I was on board with that, and that's the plan. We'll be there for. It's around a week. We go via Lisbon because that's the way that you can get there. There are not many flights, so it's one of those islands where tourists arrive once a week. So we mostly us and the locals, which is great.
Maybe
Cool.
we'll
That's a really
right.
That's
so this
a nice
is not about,
unusual destination, Vitor.
It is, yeah. Which is not rare on me.
That's true, yeah. Like you go to Cork all the time. I mean, that's an unusual destination,
Oh, yeah. I'm actually only going to Cork in July, and that's a long time for someone like me. I just got confirmation for an arts festival in Malo. I'll be on the Malo Arts Festival. It's good to tell to people who are watching this. It's on can't remember, it's last Thursday of the month in the local library. So I'll be talking about my Harry Kernoff book. And it's funny fact, I got the SMS, the confirmation, while I was doing another talk at Arts Festival in Dublin. It's like, oh, an SMS, that's very weird, because these days it's all WhatsApp, emails, and it was a lady from the festival. So
cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So this is not about travel, because we don't want to be loyal to our audience. Maybe one day we can do a separate session on travel. Why not? But let's stick to the topic at least today. And the topic is writing. So we discussed plenty of themes last time, and there was one that, well, we just didn't have time to go through, which was inspiration and writing block, which I think it's one that we cannot avoid, because everyone that is into writing, they were there at some point. People felt the inspiration where they didn't expect. People find a place that is inspiring, and they decided to return there because it's a place that talks to their hearts. And everyone was stuck at their point of their writing endeavor. So I'm sure you guys have a lot to say about that. And this topic, I think, was your suggestion, Jeroen, if I'm not mistaken. So I need to start with you.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I'm trying to. I have had writer's block a few times, and it's actually one of the things that I found to get out of writer's block was to talk to somebody else. So I discussed the writer's block the last time with Maria, and I was able to look at it in a different way, and also because of her perspective on it. So I found in my own head that I was kind of stuck, but I wasn't actually stuck. I just needed kind of I don't know, maybe even a confidence boost or something like that. That was maybe more where I was stuck, and getting her perspective on it. And I think that's, for me, the key to get over sort of a writer's block is to either speak about it to somebody or maybe out loud to yourself, to kind of go, right, like out loud, I'm stuck here. Why am I stuck here? To go over it and speak it out loud. And therefore, you suddenly start to find yourself, either you find a solution or the person who you're speaking to gives you a solution that you didn't even think of. So that for me is one thing that I will definitely do in future. The other thing that I started to do when I have writer's block, I still try I tackle, let's say, another paragraph, right? So say I'm stuck on one particular subject or in a page, or I can't get any further, but I need to write that day. So I'll just go and I'll go to another paragraph and just start a completely different idea, and then come back to it, to where I'm stuck. And usually by doing that, the cogs start to work in my brain, and then I can look at it with a different perspective. And sometimes I think it's not. I think, as a writer, sometimes it's a lonely exercise, if you like, because you're doing it on your own. So for me, I found to talk to somebody about it and to show them, oh yeah, I'm doing this, or just talk to yourself about it. I mean, talk out loud and just go, right, look at it. That resolves it for me. Up to now, that mightn't always work, but up to now, that's been a really a good way for me to get through it. So yeah, it's kind of funny because I find you hit a writer's block and you feel real stuck. But if you don't allow yourself to be stuck, and so like you go into another paragraph, or maybe if you're writing a short story, let's say that you go to another short story or a completely different thing, then suddenly you're going, oh yeah, hang on a second. If I go back there, now I know what the answer is. And yeah, that's just kind of the way that I've worked it. It's probably not the same for everybody, but that's definitely the way I've found it to work.
Yeah, I mean, I relate to that because I think there's a huge benefit in verbalizing what's happening with us, whether it's writer's block or any other struggle, because at least we can visualize the moment we name the monster is not that scary. That's like we can see at least what kind of dragon are we facing. That's true for every sort of demon. If you think about it from a psychoanalytical point of view. Yeah. In terms of inspiration, Jeroen, is there any source that you can name, or is something more anonymous?
Yeah, so I have inspiration from kind of various places. Weirdly enough, recently I've had quite a lot of inspiration from dreams. So I have a very, very vivid dreams. I mean, my dreams are like in full color and like watching a movie. Like really vivid. So I don't always remember them though, but the ones that I do, I would wake up the next day and kind of go, ooh, that's a cool idea. I'm going to put that in there, or I'll put an element in it. So from dreams, I'm definitely taking some inspiration. And then, I guess, yeah, like I don't really have a plan around my story, or I have a very broad plan, if you like, but I've already sort of taken a few different angles to it. So I'm working on two different stories at the same time. So it's kind of, the inspiration is almost coming from that. I'll just go, oh, hang on, that'd be cool to put in there, or that's a bit of an angle, or different, or not expected, or whatever. So I'll be writing, and then I'll be thinking of something that's coming, maybe another 3 paragraphs down the road, and I kind of go, oh, actually, that's a cool idea. I need to write that down. So I stop writing, and I go further down the page, and I write down a quick sentence, quick kind of thing of, oh yeah, I don't know, something in there, and then I can come back to that. So sometimes I'm getting inspired while I'm writing, but a lot of the time these days, I'm taking some inspiration from my dreams, which is kind of interesting. I wake up in the morning, and actually that's a funny thing as well, because that happened to me last time when I had a writer's block the last time, not too long ago, maybe 2-3 weeks ago. I went to sleep and I was a bit sort of, I don't know, caught up in the idea, and dreamt. And in the morning, I was like, I know exactly what I need to do now. So it was really funny how the dream actually made me go, oh, I know what the next sentence is, or that bit that I was stuck on. So I was like, yeah, allow that to come through, allow that to channel, and use the dream kind of as an inspiration or as a source, if you like. So yeah, that's kind of where I get a lot of it from. And I have to admit as well, I mean, I get inspiration as well from seeing things, or, experiencing things, or things that I have experienced in my life or seen in my life. Then sometimes I use that, experience, let's say, as a way of saying, oh, that I'll bring that into the story. That's interesting. That's a different look on it, or whatever. So yeah, I get inspired by many different things. But yeah, recently a lot by dreams. So yeah, it's interesting.
Maria, is inspiration something you pursue, or is there a specific material, or you just let it happen?
Yeah, I mean, for me, writer's block is a lifestyle at this stage. It's just me not taking the time and sit down because I think I don't have anything to say now. I don't have a good idea. So I would sit down and I would write what exactly. But every time I've actually sat down, even if I'm not inspired at all, I don't feel motivated, something always happens because I just think, I'll describe an item, or I'll say two characters are talking about a very random thing. And it's sort of continues from there. Sometimes I will use this material into the main story, or sometimes it's just a little bit of an exercise that will make me think something. But and I dream very vividly as well, but unfortunately it hasn't helped a lot at this point. It was the entire plot of my second book, and I say second as if I finished the first, which I haven't, but I dreamt about the plot of the second one, but that's pretty much where it stopped for me. So where I get my inspiration is from my, I don't know, inner black cat, I guess, because I do this thing. I don't know if it's normal or if someone should say something in the comments that help me. But when I walk and I notice people, I always think, what could happen here? Like someone is carrying a big grocery bag. I'm thinking, what if it rips? Like a child plays with a ball. What if it, crashes into that window? So this sort of, it's like training your brain into all those different scenarios that are not happening. I feel it's a very good exercise to entertain different possibilities, especially, because my style is always, dark and things are happening and stuff. The worst case scenario, or something that's not, all rosy and flowers and happiness, it sort of helps me. Because I think some of apart from the main story that you may have where the characters saying really important things, I think you have to think of your story as a whole. Like there's people go on an epic adventure, for example, but they will stop because they're hungry. They will have an argument over nothing because they're tired. They will, want to fix their socks because it's off their ankles and it's, impacting the way they walk. So when I pay attention to those things that happen in real life or that I think could happen, I sort of feel it feeds the reality of what I write, because otherwise, it would be a collection of important things happening. So short stories. And I think that would be boring. So for me, that's a very big thing. Like notice what's happening, if lights are flickering, even in, my own place, or if someone says something, I will usually think of something along the lines of what happened, and then it might actually find its way through the story to, albeit into a more extreme version, a more exaggerated scenario of what I witnessed or what I thought could happen. But I don't know, I feel just, looking outside in the world, or even sitting down and looking around, finding items, finding these scenarios of, I don't know, I have a vase right there that I'm looking at. What if it tips and it falls over the cardboard and everything gets wet? Like this sort of thing. I think it helps you move past the block, because for me, the block is essentially, I have nothing to say, but there's always something to say, even a little description, even a silly dialogue, a small accident. So once you get going, it's difficult to stop.
Yeah, so it seems that we all have pets here. So sorry, just to divert a bit the topic. We all have pets. We all have cats. To be more precise, I think I need to open a new section in this YouTube channel called Witty Pets. How about that?
Well, that would be fantastic. No, I'm always the black cat in this scenario. I'm always the one who, like, try to move the glass past the table. So I don't know if anyone knows that this is, I don't know, a condition that I should look into perhaps, and it's not. It's an excuse. And it's not a writing genius or whatever. Please say something.
Come on, it's classic. The writer and the cat. It's not more classic than that.
That would be a short story there of someone going mad. I love that. Why should I write that? Thank you, Vitor.
Cats are vital, guys. Actually, as a matter of fact, I just tried a new project a few days ago that I'm not going to reveal because it's not off the ground yet. And the kind of way that they ask you for a photo, a bio, and I did provide that. Photo of myself, a bio. And you know what they asked me that they believed it was missing there? The name of my cat.
It's important to make
said, can we get the name of your cat? And I'm like, I thought it was my bio. Yeah, but that's essential. Yeah, I'm not making this up. I mean, I was sending a screenshot of the WhatsApp message. Oh, I couldn't believe. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We need to be prepared for everything.
Here's the inspiration. Yeah. In terms of writer's block, how do you approach that when that happens, Marie? Is there a strategy? Is also something that you let it go spontaneously?
I just make myself sit down, and then I will write about literally anything. But I think for me, the writer's block is not, and I don't know if I've entered another realm of what writer's block is, but for me, it's not the sitting down and having nothing to say. I don't find that as scary as myself blocking the sitting down and the actual writing, because I stop before I even sit down, which is stupid. But I think that's my process. If I will, try to make myself sit down and write. Like yesterday is a good example, actually. I was thinking I really need to say that I've moved in this podcast, that I've written a bit since the last time we spoke, and it hadn't gone as well as I had hoped. So I sat down yesterday and I said, okay, I'm going to write a bit now so that I can say, yes, I've written since the last time, just admitting that. And I sat down thinking, I'll write a couple of sentences just to say, I hit a little bit of a more bigger milestone. I wrote 1,000 words non-stop. It just sit down and do it. Yeah, and it was good. I mean, I'll review that obviously, and I'll change my mind about it in a couple of days as it happens. But it was a solid 1,000 words of completely new material that I added to the story. And I even went to a previous chapter that was not going anywhere, in my opinion. I thought, okay, it's like they find themselves in a big snowstorm and they're walking through it. I was just describing how difficult it is to get through that, because they really need to, get out of it and arrive somewhere in time. And I had stopped there. And yesterday I thought, this is what's going to happen. And I think with fiction as well, I don't know if this is the category that faces the hardest writer's block or whatnot, but because whatever happens to your story and to your characters depends on you, you're the biggest danger to those people. Like, you have to move this. It's not going to move itself. And, the other story that I'm writing, which is, again, it's fiction, but it's more, I'm drawing a bit on my personal life, so I know where some things will go. I find it a bit easier. The difficult thing there is to make sure that I get the order in a way that makes sense, or that what the people say helps the story. So that part is more about the creativity of it. In fiction, the story is not going to move itself. You have to make decisions. You have to sit down, and of course, you can change your mind as many times as you want, I guess. But it's the no, I don't think anyone has a story from A to Z. They know how it's going. They know exactly what people are going to say, what's going to happen. So if you let the block get to you and prevent you from either sitting down and staring at the screen, it's just a waste of time, really. For me, the best advice I guess I could give someone is, I don't know, you're holding a pen, describe it. And that usually helps move past it. Any piece of something you create is not a waste, in my opinion. It's exercise. You can add it, like, I don't know, you think of the pen, you could think, what if this pen starts talking to me? Like, silly things like that. So you're sort of forcing your inspiration, sort of forcing your creativity to literally speak back to you if that's the scenario you're going for. So I don't know, just sit down and do it. It sounds harsh and so predictable, but when it comes to writing, I think it's everything.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I didn't have this question in mind, but it came up while we were talking. Maria, do you use pen and paper or are you typing?
I use paper sometimes if I really want to see how something will look. If I make a timeline, for example, or if I want to make a not chart or sort, a family tree or something like that, because I don't have the technical skills to do that very well online. But I mostly type. I just find it faster, and since it's been a few years since I was in school or in university where I actually had to write down things, I find that my speed is really suffering. My hand hurts a lot afterwards. So I think that would be a block for me at this stage. But I would like to get a typewriter at some point. That's the goal. Up until then, it's a laptop, I guess.
Maybe, Jeroen, we can ask when is Maria's birthday and we can
get her a typewriter.
How about that?
You're very good.
That sounds like a good plan.
Ask offline. That's too personal.
I'll have to learn it. I'll have to actually write a bit.
No, the issue with asking people's date of birth, but then we start asking the horoscope, and then that's a whole completely different discussion. So we don't go there. We already have the travel. We already have the pets, horoscope. We won't be talking writing in this episode, and people will just drop. So
yeah.
Let's be loyal.
Quickly.
But now I want to know from you, Jeroen. Are you a pen and paper kind of writer or more than using the...
So I can't read my own handwriting. So therefore can't stop straight away. I have a handwriting that looks like, I don't know, a doctor who has been learned to write backwards or something like that. Right. So I can't read my own handwriting. I literally can't. I can write something down, look at it 5 minutes later and go, what language? Or what is that even? Is that a scribble? Is that so? The answer is no. I just type.
Oh, you can't tease me that now. We have to see it.
Oh God, no, really. There's things I shouldn't inflict on the world, and one of them is my handwriting.
Some live example would be interesting. Yeah.
That was a very straightforward answer, Jeroen.
I'm the same. Like my handwriting is. I remember when I was in university, and back in the days, I'm old enough. You had to use handwriting for the exams, and my handwriting was pretty awful. And one of the professors said, "I cannot read this Paleolithical alphabet." Said, "Sorry, so we have no chance here." Yeah, that was a very bad comment, but that's what I was told. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Portuguese professor, university, sense of humor. Yeah. Motivation. Huh?
Absolutely.
So yeah, I would be the same. I would be using the laptop. I switched during COVID and never went back. That's the best. My only concern with not being able to write using pen and paper is if I'm not at home, then I cannot do it. Sometimes I have ideas. So what I do, I just type it on the mobile and then I develop at home. But
yeah, I would do the same. To be honest with you, sometimes I write things on my phone in my notes, and I'll just write a sentence or something like that. Yeah, sometimes I'm like, I need to put it down somewhere, but if I write it down, I won't know it in 2 minutes. So therefore, I put it into my phone.
No, my fiance got me this fantastic gift a few months ago. He got me this little mobile keyboard that you connect to your phone. So it's fantastic if you're in the train or on the plane, you just, move your phone horizontally like that and you just type with it. And it's really, really good because it's the lightest thing. and it gets out, some of the, the handwriting out of the way, I guess. But I do type a lot on my phone as well, the most random times where I'll have an idea, but the little keyboards actually, it makes more sense, and I can write directly in the Drive documents that I have instead of my phone, and then, transfer the notes. And sometimes I have copies of the same notes over and over again because I don't remember, did I move this already? And I've moved it and it's already there, and then I don't remember if I edited it. So I think writing straight onto your document with a little keyboard works.
Yeah. The only exception from me when it comes to handwriting is when I write poetry. Then it has to be handwriting. Otherwise, it's just too cold for poetry.
That's part of the process, yeah.
Yeah, I think there's a certain romance with writing by hand, but
Yes.
maybe I'm just not a romantic.
maybe when you return from Rome, you will be a romantic guy.
Yeah, baby.
Italian, you get the Italian charm.
In the literal sense, romantic. Yeah.
You see?
Or you'll be inspired and get big boulders and start chiseling on them. Like, depends on how inspired you get. I will move the story a little slower, but yeah, it will be historically accurate, at least, if you want to go for that. The options are there, people. Just pick your means and write.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just write whatever you're writing on. Write.
Here is another complex topic. That was, I think, Maria's suggestion. I love that topic, Maria. I have to say, I really think it's something that we should explore, and most people who are watching us have thought about it, and maybe they need to, or they will benefit from getting others' insights. So that's about when you are writing something and there's a message about it, and you don't want to sound like we're preaching. You just want to put that narrative on the paper, and of course there is some perspective, point of view, but you don't want to sound someone who is trying to sell what are your views. You just want to put it there, let's say, as neutral as possible, or with a small amount of passion. So I need to start with you, Maria, because I'm very, very curious to see what are you wrestling with.
Yeah, I'm actually struggling with this so much because the fantasy book that I'm writing, it has its roots on Greek philosophy because it's one of my favorite topics in the world. I like those ideas. It's fascinating that at such a primitive state of the world, people were thinking those matters. So I'm using some of my own learnings or the way I see those topics in philosophy into my book, and this creates this really big struggle because I don't want to, come out as I am going to teach you some things now, pay attention. So it is really difficult to write those things without indeed making it sound like I'm preaching, like I want to convince people, like, I'm right about this and everyone else is wrong, or what. So what helps me when I feel that, okay, I've gotten very preachy, I guess now, is to always think that, first of all, this is an idea that a character expresses. It doesn't have to come from me. It doesn't have to be my own belief. And as any part of theology, any idea has pros and cons. And I think that's the part that is helping me at the moment, because as I said, I am still struggling with that. I'm not sure if I found a good way to get out of it, is even if someone's idea of someone's way of thinking agrees with me, I try to focus on the cons of it, because how will other people perceive it? Because you see, conflict, I believe, is a very, very big part of our lives, and we see it everywhere. Like, you disagree with things with your parents, with your spouse, with your kids. Everyone has their own ideas. Everyone has their own beliefs, their own background. Even if you come from the same background, like with your siblings, I guess, you can all develop those different ideas and beliefs of stuff. And sometimes I use those clashes, or what would eventually lead into a clash, in my story. So It could be two random characters that don't care about each other, having a conversation about something because they have those different ideas of how something should happen, for example, or how something works. Then you have your main character, for example, being in conflict with someone that means a lot to them, their family, their friend, their person that they're in love with, all of that. Or which recently happened to me actually in my professional career, you can have values clash. So it's yourself against your job, against something that you used to believe, against something that you believe now, but you can't believe that you actually believe that. So all of this, I think, needs to come in play when you're writing, because like my main character in that fantasy, for example, I'm basically writing myself a lot into him. It's things that I care about. He responds in situation the way I would respond if I was in his shoes and all of that. But I always try to remember he can come across as this or that, as, you know, very arrogant or very, I don't know, biased when he believes certain things or when he has certain ideas. So I think it's important, if you're writing a story, if you're writing a character that is very opinionated, to make sure that you cover the spectrum, how others perceive it, what are the flaws in this philosophy. And also, just because you believe in something, it doesn't mean that it has cracks. And not everyone can say, I guess, not anyone can say that they're a master of our knowledge. And if you have a certain idea or you have a certain knowledge, that it's 100% accurate, that it's unquestionable. And I think you grow as a person as well if you put your ideas on a pedestal and like sit back and say, okay, what is wrong with what, or what could be wrong with that? Even a value or an idea that we think is unquestionably right, there could always be someone that comes and says, I don't agree with that. Why? That's how I play with it. I open myself into the character to being questioned, and to being, you know, convinced out of it eventually, because it happens to us. Like sometimes you might think something, you have an argument with someone, you see something happen, and then you change your mind or something. No matter how old you are, this could still happen. So for me, that's what I'm trying to do at the moment, just question everything, even about, and it is most difficult, as you can understand, to do on things that I personally believe. But I think this is how you go from, I don't know, giving life lessons, I guess, to writing a story. Just show people that your characters could be wrong about something, or someone that is a good person can believe something completely different, because it's not always, you know, good and evil. It's not always a good idea versus a bad one. Sometimes it can be something very niche. And then you can have two people that are very respected, that are very wise, that are very good, believe different things. And then what happens? So I feel that that's something I like to write a lot about, because then it makes you think about things that happen in real life. Like, why do I believe that? Or what could someone say that could convince me otherwise? So I self-reflect a lot as well since I started doing that. But yeah, I think it is very tricky, because you will always be a bit biased, I think, about your beliefs, even when you're trying to, you know, hide them under a fantasy setting. So yeah, I hope this will continue to work, because at the moment it's gotten me out of some hitches, I guess. I didn't know what was going to happen next.
Yeah, what can happen next is to just suggest another brilliant topic for a separate conversation. The conflict between your beliefs and your 9 to 5. So here's another adventure for us to explore.
There's always something to find about it.
I think if it continues like that, we won't be able to do anything else than sitting, the three of us, at 8:30 every evening.
Yeah. The book of people fighting. A new idea coming out very soon, because it's so relatable.
Yeah,
no, I think it's important to recognize we're always in conflict, even if it's the smallest thing, even in your own household. Like, I don't know, I put this thing here and you want to put this thing 5 steps further away. So I think it's good to recognize that. And as a writer as well, because I think that's what, going back to the previous step, causes writer block as well. You think, oh, people will not like what I have to say, people will not agree with it. You always have to do what you think in writing and in life. Recognize that there could be things that are very wrong with the way you do things or with the way you think, and just be open to at least having this discussion. You don't have to be convinced, you don't have to change your mind, people don't have to like your writing, but just be open to the different ideas enter the criticism, because I don't know, if we wait till everyone likes what we do as writers as well, it's very, very intense to thinking how people are going to react if they don't like it. It's you'll never get anywhere, basically. So
Yeah, 100%.
I ended up giving a life lesson. I'm open to criticism now.
And I think another risk of being too much ideological, that we all change in the course of our lives. Like we now have certain views of life that we didn't have, say, 10 years ago, and maybe in 10 years' time we will change again. That's part of everyone's transformation. It happens. Like some people are more conservative than others with their own set of beliefs, but I think writers tend to be open. So it's no wonder that we start to see life or approach life from a specific angle, and then the way we perceive society and ourselves will be different. And if we preach a specific message and we are radical about it, there's a high chance in 10 years we won't recognize ourselves on that message. It happened to me. In my first book, I have views there that I'll be very embarrassed just to read out loud. I'm glad they are in Portuguese, that people won't be able to read it, except in Portugal, Brazil, and a couple of countries, because it's an embarrassment. Like I was very much influenced by, let's say, my surroundings, and I couldn't really think by myself. Like I'm proposing things for the role that I think they are just absolute bananas. But I was 23. But I said it like, this is a salvation for society. So I wouldn't be this emphatic, say, these days, just to protect myself.
That's how you grow. So embarrassment's acceptable. Has to be.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah, you probably are a bit more moderated just to be safe. Yeah, let's say. Jeroen, is it something that you dealt with in your writing endeavors, and how did that go?
I haven't really dealt with it as Maria has, and I must say I've found it very interesting to hear how she deals with it and how she approaches it. That's actually quite sort of mind-blowing for me in a way, because I've always kind of, since I've started the writing process now, again, I'm writing, one book is my life story, so it's pretty much fact. This is what happens. And the other book is the fiction book, and it's I find it interesting to do both at the same time, because the fiction book gives me the freedom to write whatever I want, and the memoir doesn't, because the memoir is a sequence of facts. But I've always kind of thought in my way of doing it that I would try to approach it like a journalist and just report the facts and let people make up their own minds about it. So in terms of ideology, or in terms of sort of preaching or anything like that, I've decided that I'm going to take that out of it completely, and I'll write it in a very factual way. And I've done this in both books. It's extremely factual. It's this happened, this happened, this happened. And people can make their own minds up about it. So I've actually taken the whole thing out of it, if you like, because I've always felt that, well, it's not up to me to, make people think whatever they're going to think, but the story has to make them think whatever they're going to think. This is the one thing that I've always found about reading and writing. Reading up to now is that, a fiction book, the writer writes what they're thinking, right? But you, in your imagination and in your mind, you might be taking a completely different road to where the writer takes you, even though they're taking you on that road, but you have a different perception of it. So I've always tried to, now I haven't come across it that much, but I've tried to have the attitude of, I'm a journalist. I'm writing the events. Make up your own mind as to what you think the events are, or as to how it happens to that person or the character or whatever it is. You make up your mind. I'm not here to make your mind up for you. I'm here to tell you the story. That's it. So we have a completely opposite way of approaching it, Maria and I, which I find really interesting, because I've literally taken the whole possibility of being preachy out of it, because I'm like, I'm just a journalist. I'm just telling you the facts. I'm telling you this happened, the character, I don't know, whatever happened to the character. I'm telling you that. And you then have to go and make your own mind about it, if you like. So
I like to torture myself.
Sorry?
Because I like to torture myself.
But I mean, it'll be interesting to see.
No, and you yourself. No, sorry, go on. I'll speak.
It'll be interesting to see when I come across something where I'm feeling like, because of the methodology I'm following, I'm very conscious of it, and therefore I can't see it happening, if you know what I mean, where it's going to be kind of preachy, because I'm literally taking it right out. So it's just interesting to hear from a completely different perspective that you're putting it in almost, to test yourself, whereas I'm taking it right out. It's interesting.
No, but there's a great charm in what you do, and having read so much of what you've written, it's how it is an art to say the facts and still make people feel feelings and create opinions on things without forcing it on them. And I see it a lot these days, especially with what do you call that, sensational journalism and all of that you're trying to drive people's feelings into a certain location, into a certain way, try to gauge that reaction out of them. It's really difficult. And I spoke earlier about how difficult it is to know where your character is going in fiction, but I think it's equally difficult to try to be neutral and not to force your feelings on other people, especially when you're writing about your own family, for example, or characters that you've based on real people, and then you have certain feelings and certain biases on them. So all those very different ways of doing things. So there's not, one straight line into writing that good book, I guess.
And that's a good point, actually, Maria, because in the memoir, I am talking about events that happened to me and to my family. So I have to take the emotion out of it. I have to take the preaching out of it, because those events happened, whether I liked it or whether I didn't like it or whatever, they happened. They were a real thing. So whatever my perspective on it was or is, I cannot show that, because in a way, I don't want those events, they just happened. They're facts. They are real. And, I also am conscious of the fact that I am describing members of my family, things they did or whatever it is. So I'm conscious of the fact that I have to just be completely neutral about it, because they are my family, and those events happened with them, or caused by them, or caused by things that happened to them. But I can't take a judgment into that. I feel, so I've very consciously pulled all of that out. It's just interesting to hear from your side that you were actually putting it specifically in. I like that.
But I'm Greek. I like you a lot. It's just comes with a nationality.
That's another topic for us to explore. How much we carry from our nationality. How about that? And what we'll do with that?
I got a lot. That will be very easy podcast.
That podcast will last about a month, Vitor.
Fine. Oh, we need it.
Yeah. For me, and then whatever you want to do.
So we talk about preaching, and I think there is a risk of coming up with a character that carries our ideas and comes across as a hero or a heroine. Okay, that's one risk. Now, myself, I think I'm fairly aware of that, and I may not fall into that trap that much. But where I would have a lot to improve, and I'm going to put my skin on the game here, is, let's say, if I believe that a set of ideas doesn't make any sense, I will come up with the fullest character ever just to express those views, and that's pretty evident. I will just create this individual who is just an idiot, and will tell everything I don't agree with. And if the reader is paying attention and fully aware of what kind of writer I am, he will realize that, okay, here is the villain or the anti-hero, whatever you want to call it. You can clearly see that this person is there to embody the ideas that I'm trying to repeal. So that's like something that is also dangerous, and I think is good to be aware of.
Yeah, or you might end up with a fun base for the stupid character instead of the hero.
Yeah, to make it simple.
And then the sequel is about the stupid character. Very dangerous water.
I think that is something to be absolutely aware of, Vitor, and it's a good thing to be aware of it, because I think that's probably the first place as a writer that you would probably go when you're creating a character, that you're going to either create a character that embodies the things that you stand by as the hero, right? Or just the opposite, the character that has all the worst characteristics that you don't like, But for me, a character is more than one aspect, one, perspective. A character has many different influences, you know what I mean? So you can have characters that have, an idiot, whatever, but, they've got to have more to them, because we're complex human beings. It's one person doesn't think just one thing in one direction all the time. Like we change, and we're complex.
I think it's more about when you present a specific character only from that angle, then I think the message is evident. If he's wise all the time, that's when you are telling the reader, this is what you should believe in. If he is a fool all the time, this is also a sign that this is something that you shouldn't take in consideration. This is garbage, just to make it simple. So, as you said, we should be clever and try to show that the person is not just that set of ideas, he is much more than that. So there is this technique or this trick that maybe we should be mindful of when presenting the character to the reader.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've always found the types of characters that are most interesting to me personally, in books that I've read, in movies that I've watched, in stories in general. For me, the type of character that I really like is the character that you don't really know, is this guy bad? Is this guy good? There are certain things that he does or certain things that she does that I really don't agree with. But then he turns around 5 minutes later and he's doing something that I think is amazing. So it's not the hero, the anti-hero. It's very much like the character that I like is the complex character. The character that you would go, this guy is a bad ass. But at the same time, he's kind of cool. He's got his good sides. He's complex, and that's the characters I've always been drawn to. In terms of characters, I like a complex character, not a one note kind of, one size fits all character, if you like. I like the character that has the dark side, has the bad side, but also has the propensity for good, or the good guy who's flawed. That's just something I've always been drawn to.
So maybe it's about a character that is able to surprise you, It's not obvious from page 1 to the last page.
Yeah, I 100% think that's this element of surprise is really a cool thing when you're either reading or writing, that you can surprise your reader or even sometimes yourself when you're writing it. I think that's brilliant. Then somebody's going to go, "Ooh, I need to read a bit further here," because that caught me completely sideways. I did not see that coming. Yeah.
Another one I have here for discussion is the social aspect, or maybe not social, social psychological aspect of writing. So some writers approach the act of writing as an act of escaping society. Others will see it as a methodology for fixing society. And other people will just think that they are challenging by putting a couple of words on the paper that will echo on the reader. Maria, are you doing some of these when you're writing, and how?
I would say not so much escaping as trying to clear my head, really, because I realized a couple of years ago that the amount of non-realistic thoughts I have during the day, like all the scenarios that I'm making, they need an out. And since I started writing this intensely, I feel better during the day. I feel like my head is more clear because it's sort of clustered with ideas. That doesn't mean that they're good. It's just things happen in one story here, someone saying something, this conversation. And when I write them, I sort of relax. I don't know if that counts from escaping or, just getting through this process to clear my head, to feel better afterwards, or if I need to say those things, that's why they're pushing in my head so much and they only let go when I put them in a piece of paper. But I find that time passes very differently when you're writing. And like I'm personally using some of the bad experiences I've had in my life as to fuel my stories or to fuel what, characters are feeling and all of that. And that is very therapeutic. And for me, actually, I started writing the way I do now because I went to therapy a few years ago, and I happened to mention to my therapist that I started writing again. And she asked me to send her a draft that I was working on. And I randomly chose something, and she was able to analyze something that was happening to me to the last detail, because to her it was so evident in what I was writing. When she started saying, "Oh, this is that, this is that, this is that," I said, "You're just telling me your whole life story or your whole situation here in this." So I don't know. Is it escaping? Is it just trying to make things make sense? It's perhaps trying to escape from a situation that I don't like, which is my head feeling like that, which is, feeling that there are things I need to say or I need to speak about even, and putting them on a piece of paper is speaking about them. I don't, really need, you don't really need to have the conversation all the time with, actual people. Maybe putting it on paper is a way to escape from a situation, not reality itself perhaps, but escape from a bad situation and make your way into a reality where you've, let some things to rest, you figure out your way, you've, make your problem seem smaller or easier to go through. And yeah, I think basically, I started to write to heal myself, and now it's become such an important thing. I can't live my reality without it, really. It's very, very important. And at this stage, of course, I would love to get things published, but even if I don't, I'm getting so much out of it that it's a better reality for myself, if I could say that.
Yeah. I would just add one thing here, like as someone who truly believes in the power of the individuals and not as much in collectives, I think when we are when you are writing, we fix ourselves to an extent, and then automatically we also fix society, because we will get back to the road as better individuals. So, like it or not, there is always an element of social therapy, because we will bring the road another energy, which is likely more positive. So I think there's no way not to help society when we are writing, because we are working on ourselves. And I think that's the best thing that we can do with life is to look after us. I mean, that's essential. So I think by definition, the act of writing will impact society because the writer is a better person after writing. I would like to get your thoughts as well on this, Jeroen.
Yeah, I mean, like I know it's a cliche, but there's a form of therapy in writing, and look, I know that's been said a million times before, all of that kind of stuff. But what I've seen in my writing is that it's now giving me. I'll write something down, and again, in a very factual way, this happened, but I kind of fix it in my head in terms of, okay, that happened, I wasn't happy about it, or something bad happened, or whatever it was, or something good happened, but it's allowing me to, after the fact, go back and sew it back all together. It's been ripped, right? And it allows me to go back, and yeah, it's like a piece of material that's been torn or something like that, let's say, right? And it allows me to go back after the event and sew it all back together again. So I find that for me, it's a very therapeutic thing to do that, and to look at events that have happened, because I'm writing about my own life. So I've looked at a lot of events that have happened in a new way, in a new, more positive or less negative way. So like you said, that's an interesting point, Vitor, is that, by working on yourself or by healing yourself, you are presenting a better version of yourself to society. So therefore you are actually affecting society. And I also think that when a person reads what you've written, now, if you publish or whatever, but a person, right, one person has read that and has been transported somewhere, or has seen your life or things that happened to you, that's already impacting as well. Whether it be good or bad or indifferent, but they've walked 5 centimeters in your shoes, and therefore maybe it impacts them as well, because maybe they've seen something similar, or maybe they, have experienced something, and you're going, well, this happened to me. And then they go, oh, wow, that happened to that guy as well. So if one person reads your writing and gets affected by it in a bad, good, or, not good way, that's, there you go. That's the effect, it's, I've just seen there's a question just popped up
there's
there.
a question here. Yes, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I just want to tell Johnny, thank you very much for the question. First of all, we are very happy to take those queries. And so the question is, what genre would you most like to write and least like to write? So there are two questions actually on that one, which I think is something that we can explore here. Maybe Jeroen.
Well, yeah, I'm writing two different things at the same time to challenge myself. One being a memoir, being very factual, and the other being a fiction work. So the one that I would most like to write, well, it's actually the memoir is writing itself more. So therefore, I more like to write that. However, I've challenged myself because I want to write, something in fiction as well. Probably if I was going to choose a genre that I wouldn't like to write about, it would be something like, I don't know, horror, or, something like that. For me, it has to be a certain amount of fact, or, or something that I really like to write about it maybe in the future is like history, my perspective on history. But like, if I was going to choose something that I really wouldn't be interested in writing, something like horror would probably be one there. But I'm quite open, and this process has allowed me to be open to new ideas. And I've had another idea for another type of book the other day, which I'm now storing because it's a completely different channel again. So I think it opens you up to things, and you suddenly find yourself going, do you know what? I'd like to try that. Why not? You know?
Let me just add one question within Johnny's question before I turn to you, Maria. When you said you like to write stories that are fact-based, and you're not that much interested, say, in horror, do you think that's your own choice, or it just happened to be that way? Because to me, let's say, I like to write poetry, but poetry just happens. It's not my decision. It's an event that I take part, that I'm invited, and I cannot say no. But I don't get to say I'm going to write poetry on Saturday at lunchtime. It doesn't work like that. I love it, but I cannot just schedule.
Yeah, I guess maybe my reasoning behind, like, for instance, I would like to try poetry at some point. I've written some poetry in the past as a teenager, as a very angsty teenager. I've written some poetry. You know, I would like to try it and give it a lash, but I don't like the genre horror when it comes to, let's say, movies or whatever else anyway. So I think that's probably why I would say, therefore, I will never write horror, but yeah, like I said, there's a lot of things that have opened up in my mind since I've started writing, and a lot of alleys that I probably would have never seen myself go down, I am now going down, and I'm opening myself up to other styles, other genres, other ways of writing, even writing, for instance, Japanese haiku, or you know what I mean? There's so many different ways that you can do it. And I'd like to try some of these, why not? Just try it and see,
Maria, what about you? Any favorite genre or any genre that you are not really interested?
At the moment, I really love writing the fantasy for all the reasons I said in the previous episode as well, that how liberating it is, how you have full control over it, how you can create your own worlds and destroy them and, make it go your way. If we're talking about new things, I would love to write a murder mystery. I think it would be so obvious who did it if I tried to do that. I love murder mysteries. I just think if I tried my hand in it, it would be Page to the Butler did it. So maybe I will, when I feel like I don't know, I really want to challenge myself, I will try to write something like that. So I find that very interesting because one genre that I've actually started trying to write is all of this, like, again, conflicts, my favorite thing, family conflicts. And one of those stories that something happens to a family, so nothing extremely out of the scope of reality or maybe at all. So I thought, okay, maybe if I'm able to write real life situations, what could happen to a family, that could make me a better writer in the other genres that I feel more comfortable with. But the one thing I think I would never go for is romance. I don't think I can handle that. I think if I tried it, it would be the cheesiest thing ever. And I don't like reading romance as well. I just think it would be the most horrible thing, bottom of the barrel piece of literature ever. Nothing would sound real. The characters would make the most, I don't know, stupid decisions, perhaps the most predictable. I think everyone would really hate each other, and it would be the likes of, high school romance, which I don't agree with as a writer, at least. So I don't know. Romance sells a lot, though. I have to say that it's a very commercial. It's a genre that's become popular the last few years, I guess, and it has developed a lot since what Jane Austen used to write. So if I ever tried romance, it would be more like Jane Austen than modern things. But I don't think I can take it. I don't know what I would do with it. I think I would embarrass myself more than I feel I would embarrass myself if I tried to write a murder mystery. So I think that's the one I really wouldn't try.
Yeah, there's one genre that we haven't mentioned today, and neither on the first episode, which is theater. I don't know if you guys have already thought about it, like coming up with a theater play, because I wrote and published one maybe 12 years back, and it just happened. I cannot explain why did I pursue that format. Like, because I think there is some there are some rules to write a theater. There is a pace. There is a format. Of course, there is room for deviation, but it's not as simple as just write prose. But I think the reason, if I think about it from a psychological point of view, the reason why I adopted that format is I'm very much into dialogues and not as much into descriptions. When I write fiction, let's say, I don't know, 100 pages, at least 1/3 is dialogues. I will be a bit more like the Americans, more interested in what people are saying and not much in me telling what's happening. Like I give a lot of freedom for the characters to express themselves, even though I put words in their mouths, but at least are their words at the end of the day. And with theater, it's not purely dialogue, but almost. But at least it's the core. So I think that's the reason why I adopted that. Have you ever thought about theater piece yourselves, maybe Maria?
Not before you mentioned it, actually. I think this is so much outside my scope of abilities. I think if I was for like gun on my head, right, a theatrical piece, it would be someone reading my book aloud. So I think that's
No
as
joke.
much as yeah, right. Or just a character sitting on the stage, opening the book, going right. That's it. But it's funny you should say that. I had actually never thought about it before today. But I love theater. So I don't know if this is very. I just know how far I can reach with with my abilities, but it's a very interesting means, and it would be a great challenge because I feel most comfortable when I'm describing situations, events, sequences, all of that. Dialogue always makes me feel uncomfortable, and thank you so much for putting my mind at rest with some of the dialogues you have read, because every time I write two people talking to another, the first intrusive thought is no one talks like that. It would be a great challenge, but it is a very, very interesting I don't know, type of writing, I guess, or genre, or what you'd call it. And it's much more limiting than prose, I guess. And you'd have the one thing I guess that would be good for me or easier for me is that when I write, I really visualize the space, everyone's position. What are they holding? Where are they standing? What are they wearing? So I think maybe that would be good if trying to write a play, visualizing the scene before actually getting your husband, your dog, your second cousins all stand in the kitchen there so I can see how that situation would look like. But the actual words, no, I think I'd need help being convinced that people actually do talk like that.
Yeah, because I think with the dialogues, the tricky part is we want to make sure that people talk like that, but at the same time they fit the format of a book. There is something in between. Like you cannot just brought the way that people interact on a day-to-day life into a book. There are some sort of slang, pace that just doesn't make sense in the book, but at the same time, it needs to be suitable, for the way people express themselves on a day-to-day basis. So I'd say it's a tricky territory in my estimation. Jeroen, are you also ignited by the idea of a theater, or you're too busy with your two books?
I'll tell you what. I think I'm scarred by Amdram societies in the west of Ireland in the 1980s, and being part of them. So I'm a little bit scarred by that. I actually, with a theatre group that I used to work with years and years ago, we wrote a play and we performed it. And when I say we wrote, it was really the whole group. It was a really interesting process. So we had a theatre director who was quite well known, and he'd moved into the town and he'd set up his theatre group, and we'd done some plays and, we'd whatever. But we then went about writing a totally new play and putting it on. And all of us, even though I was only probably 14 or something like that, all of us had an input in how the play worked and wrote parts and all that. So it was extremely interesting, but I think I'm scarred by it. And I think I'm like, no, now horror and theatre, I wouldn't be there. And I think as well, maybe as part of that as well, again, when I was young, I was involved in a lot of drama societies and I did a lot of plays and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of made me not like theatre. And I think that's the scarring that I'm speaking about. So I can fairly much guarantee you that I will never be writing any theatre.
I have an idea of where we could start, though. I recently started learning Japanese theater. It's a specific type of thing called rakugo, and it's that person you see. It's someone on the stage, on their knees. They perform all their roles. They do the different voices. They only use their only props are like a little handkerchief and a fan. So it all has to be on how they tell the story, and I find that really interesting because you don't depend on other people in the sense that it's not a big commitment to actually practice theater like that. But these also could be very short stories, or it could be like two people just talking to each other, 3 sentences each. I performed with my Japanese language and Japanese theater teacher, I guess, in London in November last year, and the play that I did only literally had 2 characters, 3 sentences each. That I could try to write. I don't think I could be as funny in Japanese as Japanese themselves are. So I hope I wouldn't be insulting anyone if I tried that or if I tried to do that in English. But I would commit to that, very, very short theatre. But I don't know. I guess after seeing King Lear in Dublin recently, I would be very humbled to try anything. So maybe if some time passes and I forget how magnificent that play is, maybe I'll try my hand at it.
I think I have an idea, Vitor, right? You can write the dialogue. Me and Maria will write the descriptions. And then we've got
good
our
work.
We get the bestseller.
Take it to the West
End. Actually, we had a couple of writers a couple of weeks ago on the same show, and they did 2 books, and I think the 2 books were written by both of them, meaning they are the co-authors of those 2 books, and the 2 books are related to each other. That was quite fascinating. Two Americans. So for people who are watching us, type transgressive fiction within my YouTube channel, and you'll see. Was Aaron Paul Schott, that's one of the authors. Other one is Neda Arya, an Iranian writer based in Paris. So quite interesting. Yeah.
Wow.
Sort of collaboration. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. What I want to say. So in terms of what are you working on at the moment, as we come to an end, like let's say in the next couple of weeks, I know you'll be traveling here, so actually I'll be interested in knowing, like, you like to write every day, would you be able to keep it when you are there in Rome, or what you're going to do to make it happen?
It's actually funny because that's one of the thoughts that I've been having for the last couple of days, because I'm like, that's going to be very difficult to do that while I'm away on holidays, to write something every day, because I'm not bringing my laptop or anything like that. So I will have my phone. So I've been asking myself that question. And my question to myself is, because it's become such an important part of my everyday, and it is that part of the day where even if it's 2 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes or whatever it is, I'm at peace. The world can go on around me, and I am literally just completely focused and at peace. And it's helped me so much in myself. And it's interesting. It's going to be the first time that I'm going to be away from it and I'm not going to have it directly in front of me. So I will let you know about that the next time. I'd like to think that I'd still like to be able to, at least even on my phone or something like that, even if I wrote 2-3 sentences, at least something. I'd like to think that I will be able to do that, and I will be able to try and find those few minutes to do it. And because of the way it makes me feel, I'd like to do that, but will I do it? That's another thing. But yeah, we'll see. I'll let you know. And yeah, it's a question that's been sitting on my sort of in my mind for the last 3 or 4 days. Like, yeah, I'm really looking forward to going on holidays, and yeah, I'm really can't wait, and a break from everything. How the hell am I going to write?
Yeah. The way I do, the way I
comes in. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, say now the little keyboard makes sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a very good idea.
You'll buy one tomorrow. Not traveling tomorrow, Jeroen. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, the way I go about making sure that I write when I'm traveling is I always wake up earlier than anyone. I mean, not always, but I'll try to wake up at least every second day just to have that me time, and then I use it for writing or to take notes. You know, it's not a big deal because I know the two of us, we are morning people, so we can just wake up, let's say, half an hour earlier than the others, or 1 hour, and just go for a walk. Because the other thing is maybe something also to explore is how much are we comfortable to write in front of others? Because to me there is some nudity about writing, because I'm like exposed in a way. I'm not always comfortable, so I don't like others to see me in that, in that context. It's not that I want to hide, but it's just too personal. So you need to walk away from your travel partners and have that space. So it's not just that you need your own time. You need to be physically separated.
That's interesting, actually, because recently I was in work and I had a 5-minute, this is what I do all the time. Like, I had a 5-minute gap, and I was like, right, quick, I'm going to open up my document and start writing for a minute. And one of the girls went by and looked over my shoulder, and she goes, "Are you writing a book?" And I was like, "Yeah, I am, yeah." And my first reaction was that kind of like, yeah, I've been caught naked in the shower. Oh. And then my reaction afterwards was, well, yeah, I am. Yeah, I am writing a book, and yeah, whatever. And she was then like full of questions, and she was like, "Really? Wow, cool. And what are you writing it about?" And all this kind of stuff. And I wasn't expecting that at all, because I just thought, yeah, I'll quickly write a few words and whatever. So it's interesting because I kind of found myself a bit exposed and a bit sort of like, but then I was like, oh no, yeah, that's what I'm doing. Yeah, that's it. So and the people I'm traveling with know I'm writing at the moment. So I don't think it'll be hard for me to go, I'm going to go for 5 minutes and just go and write. Do you know what I mean? I don't think it will be difficult. We'll see.
That's for next episode that people will will connect just to see what happened in Rome.
Okay, caught in the writing shower.
Maria, you are heading home. So as another fellow expat, I'm curious to see whether is that something that will provide you with inspiration, or you'll be too, let's say, too busy that there won't be time for writing or to think about your next story.
Fighting with my family will be great inspiration. Again, only with the Christmas. Everyone argues a lot. So no, it's the first time that I'll be going back for such a long period after I exposed myself as a writer, I guess, because they didn't know. I started sharing it with people when you first invited us into this podcast, actually. So thank you for that on top of everything else. So people have expectations now. So I think I can just play the I'm a writer card, leave me alone now, and isolate for a little bit. I don't want to drive them crazy on these very important holidays. No, I do think I would like to take the time to write more, because it's it's the change of scene. I want to take advantage of that, of the new the new scenery, the walks down to the sea, which I don't have here, even though this country is an island. Just fresh perspective and all of that. I would like to take advantage of it, and I am very curious to see if I will be more productive outside my surroundings, because I work from home as well, so sometimes it's just being in the same place all the time can be a hindrance. So I'm curious to see if it will get better, or if it's will get much worse. But the good thing is that I'm also missing my Dungeons and Dragons group, and those people are great inspiration always, not only from the kind of gameplay we do, the characters they come up with, the conversations that we have. So I'm hoping to read them a little bit and maybe write them into the stories a little bit. I have a group of wonderful friends that are always inspiration for me, and I don't know. Shout out to Dungeons and Dragons, I guess, because it's a great way to explore what you can do. And this, element of surprise that Jeroen said earlier, you start the campaign and you're playing with your friends and you each have a character and you're making decisions. And especially with this group, it never goes where you think it will go. So that's sort of extra training in, could I write a scenario where that happened differently? So yeah, I hope to get some inspiration for that, push my creativity to the test in front of a group of people where I have to react live. That's always good exercise. But also be around my family now that they know that I write, and see if they'll have any reactions I'll have to deal with back home. So definitely a lot of things to say in the next podcast. Hopefully not my family has disowned me because they think I'm the worst writer they've ever come in contact with.
So I want to be shared on next episode. I want to be shared.
Yeah, how it went.
Want to be shared. Yeah. Just in terms of writing, I had a friend here this weekend, Marcos, by the way. You know Marcos.
Yeah, I know Marcos.
Marcos and the wife, they were here for the weekend, and I always like to have this me time. I think it's vital for my mental health, my well-being, and all that. And I typically have this 5-10 minutes in the morning, where I usually journal, and I want to make sure that I have it, and I had it. And you know why? Because Marcos was always more hungover than me, Jeroen. So I think we're not surprised. That was great. I always make sure, have another pint because I need to have 10 minutes tomorrow. I usually say that your morning starts the night before, and I think that's a good example.
It's good to have friends.
I love it. That's brilliant.
So a lot to go through next episode. So we will discuss our travels. How did that impact our writing? And all the topics that we came up in this conversation. I took note of a couple, but I think there were like 10. But maybe they will come back to our head, and we try to make a series out of this. I think there is so much that we can cover that I think we'll be here for quite some time. She's great. So I'm always delighted to chat with you guys. I want to say a massive thank you. It was another pleasant evening. So thanks very much.
Well, thank you, Vitor. It was really good, and we went down alleys that I didn't expect us to go down, But as always,
absolutely every time.
As always.
In terms of alleys, what are we going to explore in this podcast in the next few days? So tomorrow we're going to discuss Middle East politics. We will try to figure it out whether there is democracy in that part of the world. So it will be an open conversation. we do be with Marco Alexander. He is back, and together with Erez Modai, Professor Ogli, or Wogli, I don't know how to pronounce his name. Apologize. And who is else? Niram Ferretti. 2 Italians, by the way. 2 Italians. 2 Italians. So there is also some Italian elements in my life. So we're going to discuss that, whether there is democracy in the Middle East. We won't be preaching, but we have a pick, and maybe people can guess what nation is that. Thursday, we have football. Yeah, so we go through the League of Ireland games, those that happened last weekend and those that are scheduled for Friday nights. So I'll be here with my dear guest resident. I call it resident because he's here every week. So I'm going to be here with him, and we're going to have a women footballer for a change. Why not? I think they also have something to say. I can't remember her name. I apologize. But I think she scored a beautiful goal recently, so we decided to bring her in. And Sunday, 7 p.m. for those who are in Ireland, I'll be talking to Trevor Warman, who is a real globetrotter. He has been in more than 100 countries. And we will focus our conversations on Africa because, as I said in the beginning, I'll be heading to São Tomé and Príncipe. So I decided to do a podcast about backpacking Africa. I think Africa is not much explored, so it's good to bring it into conversation. So that's what we have in the next few days. If people appreciate these real and raw conversations, there are 3 buttons below: like, share, subscribe. So they are very vital to make us visible on the internet sphere. So I count on your support, and guys, enjoy your holidays, and make sure. I'm sure that there are plenty of stories for next episode.
Thank
Have a good
you.
night.
Thank you, Vitor. Take
Bye.
care, guys.